witnesses are to be believed, there has been a child security breach for the first time in monster history.
We can neither confirm nor deny the presence of a human child here tonight.
Well, a kid flew right over me and blasted a car with its laser vision.
I tried to run from it, but it picked me up with its mind powers and shook me like a doll.
It's true. I saw the whole thing.
Hello, hello, please come in. There's some fresh cookies in the cookie jar. There's a pitcher of Kool-Aid on the counter. Have a seat. We'll put a movie on for you. This is Movies at Grandma's House, where we look at the movies from the past to see if they're still good today. And I'm your host, Isaac. Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. So help me. And who's joining me in a world full of monsters?
Me, Gaga Guy 88, because she's out of our hair.
And this is Seth. You and me and you, both of us together.
Lovely singing voice, fellas. Terrific. It is great to see you, and we want to welcome in our special guest, as you heard, Galaga Guy 88. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Glad to be here.
Yes. Great to
have you.
Great to have you here. And how are you doing, my friend Seth? It's good to see you.
It's been a crazy day, but you know what? We got together for this, and I'm really excited for this one.
Me as well. So you just sometimes have days, but come on. We're talking about I think, beloved movie. If we're not spoiling too much, this is, I think, a very well-regarded Pixar movie. We're in a stretch of peak Pixar. We called it peak Pixar for a reason. So before we jump into this, we always want to make sure, just in case you have not seen this movie, please stop what you're doing. It's on Disney Plus. It's practically on every streaming. You probably have it on DVD somewhere in your collection. You have a relative. Dust it off. Go watch it. And then come on back, because we're going to have a great time with this. This is a classic, and on many people's eyes, I'll just say, this is Monsters, Inc. This is, like we've mentioned, it's a Pixar, Disney Pixar. We're still in peak Pixar. It was released back on November 2nd, 2001. So coming up on 23 years ago now. Hard to believe. Yeah, blows your mind how it feels like yesterday with these movies, but here we are. That's how it is. And the budget for this movie was $115 million. So Pixar was really starting to up their budget. When we talk about movies we've considered, you just see it continue to go up and up and up. But the box office was $579.7 million. So I think they made it back. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah.
Not too shabby there, I would say. So, and we'll get to the reviews towards the end, but just looking at the reviews, I think we're not alone to say it's kind of loved. It's got like an 8.1 on IMDb average, and Rotten Tomatoes is 96%.
Ooh.
That's very rare to see.
Wow.
So that speaks volumes right there. But before we get to that part of this movie, I'm interested to know, and we're going to start with you, Galaga Guy 88 first. What are some first memories that you have with this film?
So this was after, we had Toy Story 1 and 2 and Bug's Life. This is like the next in line. And I remember watching this movie feeling like this is the first Pixar movie that was really like emotionally powerful at the end, and I felt weird about it. I was like, I shouldn't feel this sad and happy on a kids movie. So this is for me kind of like the ball was rolling for other Pixar movies later on that made you feel like, why am I crying right now? This is the kids movie. So that's what I remember most of whenever I was walking out of the theater, just like, man, like that was like powerful at the end, weirdly powerful for me for some reason.
That's interesting, but We'll get into it. Yes, I
Yeah.
totally understand that. And how about you, Seth? What are some first memories you have?
I have to say, I remember the day that I saw this on the big screen for the first time so vividly. That day is permanently etched in my mind, and I can recall that pretty much that whole day because of that movie.
Awesome. That's really cool. It's some movies are like that. This one I can't tell you exactly that day, but it was a memorable day because I want to say Ice Age came out about the same time. And if it wasn't the same day where we saw like a double feature, it was that same week.
Mm.
So we were almost comparing this with Ice Age, even though they're not, other than being animated movies, but we were just kind of, I don't know, seeing that Pixar DreamWorks feud starting a little bit because we were impressed with Ice Age, but this was, yeah, we kind of had what you're saying there, Galaga Guy 88, of like, what are these emotions? It was very, yeah, it just touches you because it's about monsters and childhood and all that stuff. So lots of memories in that way. And of course, we had it on DVD, so we watched it a ton growing up. There's so many memories of that being on as well. So, with all that in mind, we'll come back to you, Galaga Guy 88. What were your expectations, though, when it came to coming back and rewatching the movie?
I was hopeful because I remember loving it whenever I was younger, but I honestly hadn't seen this movie in a while.
Huh?
I have children of my own now, but usually they like more of the musical type of, animated movies. So usually that's something we go for right now because of how young they are. So this one, it's been so long. I was like, hopefully I still like it. Because sometimes you go back and you're like, this is dumb. So I was hopeful. I was hopeful. How's my expectations?
That's good expectations to have. I think that's what we try to have here on the podcast, but some movies are different. So that's really funny. You haven't seen it in a while. I would have thought just from conversations we've had, it might be one you've had here recently, but here we are.
No.
I'll be interested to hear your thoughts more as we get into it. But
Yeah.
what about you, Seth? What were your expectations with this one?
To say that I've seen this one a lot is an understatement. So really, it's just enjoy the music, the animation, and the characters.
I like that. I like it. We've got kind of two opposites going on there. So yeah, I'm excited to get into this one. I'm probably right in the middle with you guys. So real quick, just funny. I have children too. This scared them. So throughout the years since I first saw it, in between, I've maybe seen it a few times here and there. And then recently, I haven't been able to get through all of it because my kids would be freaked out for good reason. There's some
Mm-hmm.
scary parts
Yeah.
for kids, even though it's a kids movie. But I had expectation of let me just get through this movie. I had to turn it off with the kids and kind of like Seth, just enjoy the ride. So let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? Let's take the VHS out of the cover. Let's put it in the VCR and press play.
Behind our closet doors lies a world of monsters. Monstropolis is a city where monsters live and power the city by the screams of children. Head scarer James P. Sullivan, or Sully, and his right-hand man, wisecracking friend, Mike Wazowski, team up to scare children for power. Everything is going great till one day he meets a little girl named Boo. But they find out children aren't really dangerous. They return her to her home, and eventually realize that children's laughter is more powerful than screams. Defeating Mr. Waternoose and Randall, the end.
All right. So very straightforward, but I always thought this was a very unique story. Just finally getting the thought of monsters. I think every kid growing up, you had some kind of picture in your head of a monster, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts, and we'll start again with you, Galga Guy. What are your first impressions? Just what's some things that kind of jump out to you when you're watching this movie?
I think that they were very good at getting the feeling as a child with monsters in the closet. I know growing up, you just kind of have this feeling that there's something lurking around your room, and there's nothing really there, but there's always that imagination that you have as a kid. And I think that especially in that first scene They really help capture that feeling for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And I think that they continue that they experiment with that throughout the whole movie too. So I think they did a really good job at that.
That's true. Yeah. I really appreciate that opening scene. Like you mentioned, it does capture and that's what one of the scenes that kind of frightened my children is it does really capture that. I mean, there's the eyes under the bed. It's like red and it's sneaking around. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of scary as an adult. I can almost say it's like, ooh, this is kind of creepy and scary going on. But I love that still, just the variety of monsters too. It's not just one size fits all. It's like different sizes, different claws and fur and hair. It's just I love that. It's a great atmosphere, has so much character. But what about you, Seth? What are some things when you're watching this that just kind of jump out to you?
Oh, for me, it's probably the animation and the music. I would be remiss if I didn't say the music in this movie. I think you know this, Isaac, but it's one of my favorite soundtracks. I mean, I just love this music. It's just right up my alley.
Yeah.
And even the clever songs that Mike sings and everything, like we introduced the show with. I can't help but get like torn up, like completely embodied in the animation, the music, the cleverness of the story. I think in my notes, I think I wrote that the humor is so thought out that the script was so well done, executed, and it has great writing. So, I mean, those are the things that I think of first when I think of, I might have just covered the whole episode. I don't.
That's fine though.
And we're done. It's like,
Yeah, thanks for coming.
That's great though. I agree with everything you're saying because yeah, the music is fantastic. You got Randy Newman, but he has this jazz style. It's just
Mhm.
got that unique flavor. It's not like cookie cutter every movie. I have so much respect for that guy. He's just very talented. He knows how to write music. Uh, yeah, I mean, you mentioned the characters. I mean, we kind of opened that up, like, and where do you begin? I don't know. We'll start with. I got to go back to you, Galaga guy, because I mean, where do you start with these characters, right?
yeah. And you have people like John Goodman and Billy Crystal who are already so likable,
Yeah,
and you put them together as the duo for the main duo in the whole movie, and it's like they just work so well together. Sully, he just feels like almost like if I as a kid I thought like he's almost like a big scary teddy bear that he's just so calm and cool, and then you have Mike who's just kind of like sporadic but funny. They were awesome characters, and I loved all the little side characters too, how each one were so unique, and they always had something to say that was just hilarious. Which I'll talk about that later too, but that was part of the comedy for me watching it now, is all the little one-liners you'd get or background things that they were doing that would just crack you up. But I just think that it was pretty awesome. They did a good job on the uniqueness of the characters.
oh yeah, yeah. That's just kind of Pixar's thing is characters. They know how to do characters, and this is just a prime example of it. And they started it with Toy Story, and it's like they never look back. It's just boom, boom, boom. And to your point, I think these are still it's Pixar, but they're different. They're still different and unique. Very fitting. How about you, Seth? What are some characters that stick out to you?
I wasn't going to say this, but I think you got to say that unsung hero is Roz. The humor, the humor is just so amazing. It's so dry and so in your face, but it's so funny. I mean, it's so clever. I remember my whole family used to quote, and don't forget the paperwork.
It is true. Yes, I agree with that statement, and I've said that to family. I probably even said it to my wife, just joking, like, "I'm watching you, Wazowski." It's so great. Absolutely. I love it. It's not a spoken character, but I don't know why, but especially on rewatch, the only way I can describe it is the pelican head monster. Do you know what I'm talking about? It just looks like this,
Okay,
like
yeah,
it looks like or
yeah,
an alligator head.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know why. It just stuck out to me. they look funny too, even
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
don't have a spoken line.
Yeah.
They're just so funny. I mean, it's so great. And I don't know. What do you think about? And anybody can jump in, like the Ed Norton. Who else am I missing? There's so many like big stars in this too.
I don't believe Steve Buscemi had ever done a kids movie. Correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong. Yeah. So that was interesting to see him play Randall, and he played it so well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I probably said Ed Norton, but I was thinking Steve Buscemi. So that's a
Yeah.
total.
Yeah, I was like, Ed Norton was in this? Like, I was
I
like,
was thinking that too. I was like,
like,
wait a
I was like,
second.
what did that? I was like, who was that? Who was he?
And you just talked about long days. There you go. That's what happens
Yeah,
is when you
yeah.
have days that just. I'm visualizing Steve Buscemi, but I said Ed Norton. I don't know why I said that. But
I
yeah,
think
I
it's
love
a
his voice.
compliment to both of them,
Yeah.
though, actually.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it, there's just I love the voice acting in this. You mentioned John Goodman and Billy Crystal. Do you have that fun fact, Seth? I don't want to take it, but do you know what's interesting about Billy Crystal in this role?
Yeah, I do have that fun fact.
Okay, go ahead.
It's the one you're thinking of.
It might be.
So
Go for it.
as we discussed before, Billy Crystal was originally supposed to play Buzz Lightyear, and it didn't work out. He regretted the situation and told them he wanted to be in another Pixar movie. So they told them they'd find one more tailored to his talents. And my goodness, did they ever?
Yes.
Perfect.
couldn't
I
im-
can't go ahead, Gallagher guy.
I can't imagine him being Buzz Lightyear at all. Like Billy
No.
Crystal being Buzz Lightyear, no. So this is way better for him.
And who could have played Mike better than Billy Crystal? I mean, it's
Yeah.
literally perfect for him.
Yeah. I think of Mike. I almost want to just hear Mike, but obviously Wazowski. It's just like his voice comes to mind. And
Yeah.
to your point too, guy like with Buzz, it's Tim Allen. So
Yeah.
they knocked it out of the park with the casting. And I have to say, it's like the characters. I'm trying to like think of as a whole Pixar. I think just to me personally, Mike Wazowski's up there on Pixar characters. What do you guys think? Like when it comes to the characters, not that you have to make your top 5 or anything, but not just Mike, but any other characters? Are these like more on the higher tier to you? Am I alone in that?
I would put him in the top 5 myself. I would.
I'd probably put him in the top 10. I mean, he definitely is a very memorable character. I mean, like, you can't say you don't remember him, even if you haven't watched it in years, people are going to remember Mike Wazowski.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what just sticks out to me is like it has, you go from Toy Story that had this whole ensemble cast, and this has it too, but it's very much focused. I mean, the story, the plot, it's more focused on Sully and Mike. But I mean, man, I just always appreciate these characters. They're really up there, and yeah, I think I love the again, you have, like you were saying, Gallagher guy, you have this, like, he's a big teddy bear, and he's more ferocious and kind of frightening, but he is that kind-hearted, John Goodman voicing him, but then Mike's this, like, I don't know, it's just great dynamic. I just think it works so well. So well.
So as we're talking about voices, fun fact for you: did you know Patrick Stewart was considered to play Mr. Waternoose?
Huh.
And I put a lot of thought into that, and it would have worked.
Yeah.
It would have worked. He could have made that work.
Yeah. Wow. I'm trying to think, like,
It's not that different from the guy they chose.
No.
no.
I could see him saying, like, "Oh, this is for the company." Like, I could see Patrick Stewart saying that. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's his voice. His
How
deep
awesome
voice
would
doing
that have
yeah.
been, though?
Yeah.
Not that I don't love that voice acting. I'm just saying.
Yeah. That's just it. I love fun facts like that, though. It makes you give a different perspective. I agree. Yeah, he could definitely have done it because that character, I mean, yeah, maybe start with you, Galaga guy. What'd you think about him? And kind of has that similar twist with like Toy Story 2, where he's the good, but he actually turns out. What'd you think about that character or that plot point?
I actually had made a note about that where it was there's something with these movies, especially around this time, where like you could pick out almost immediately, like he's gonna be a bad guy, like like a good guy. I was sitting there like, oh, I don't know what it was about their appearance or maybe how their voice was or something, but like I could tell the first time that him and Sully started talking, I was like, he's gonna be a bad guy. I don't know how, but that he's gonna be a bad guy by the end of this movie. And so, I think he did a great job, the voice acting and things like that. But yeah, I liked him as a character, but there's just something about him. I don't know what it is during this time, but it's like you can just always pick him out. I don't know what it is. Now I don't know so much because I don't think they really have too many like villainous people in the newer stuff. But back then you could always just kind of tell. At least I could.
Yeah. This one wasn't. I think Toy Story 2 threw me a little bit more. They did and not saying they didn't do a good job with this. That's not what I'm saying. I think they did I like the plot twist of it, but I think the line that might have gave him away was he said, "I'll do anything to save this company."
Hmm.
Because on rewatch, I mean, I knew that was coming on rewatch, but that did stick out to me more like, okay, yeah, he is kind of he's nice and really, is like I wouldn't say maybe father figure, but kind of like that to Sully. He's wanting to see him succeed, and that's genuine. But he's also got that, yeah, but I'll backstab you. And sure enough,
Yeah.
that's what happened. But yeah, what did you think about that character? Just the plot overall there, Seth. What are your thoughts?
The plot for this movie is very unique, I thought. It kind of takes you on a little bit of a journey. It's twists and turns because you're looking one direction and they take you another direction. And it's interesting because there's so much buildup at the beginning and then they take it completely in a different direction. And
Yeah.
that's not normal for a Pixar movie, in my opinion. It's kind of like like a roller coaster in one line usually is what I'm thinking of when I think of Pixar. But this one kind of threw you a couple curveballs, and I loved it. I mean, everything about it was just brilliant. The characters in themselves were just adorable, and I mean, I know a lot of people that I was a little bit older. I don't want to reveal my age, but I was a little bit older when I saw this. But I know a lot of people that were really scared by Randall,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I I think that's amazing that a movie's able to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to respect it for that. That they were able to accomplish that because that's what they were going for. So he was, the obvious bad guy, but then Mr. Waternoose comes in and he's the one that's controlling the whole thing, and it's interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of messed up, that machine. Like
Oh yeah.
that's can almost be tried out on Mike at first, and then they actually go pretty far with Boo. I mean, it's kind of scary. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
these are bad guys. I mean, they're
Yeah.
monsters,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, they're not good dudes at all. And I think what sticks out to me, you're talking about twists and turns. Maybe you see some of it coming, but I mean, I love some curveballs. There's definitely some
Mhm.
curveballs, like the whole sequence at the end when they're trying to get Boo back and they're just going
Yeah.
through door after door. I love that scene. I mean,
Oh, it's great.
it's well
Yeah.
done, and it was just I don't know, unique. Like you didn't see anything like that. The whole concept of them going through doors was already unique, but they played on it so well. Like where they get separated and the door, it's like under repair and it's on the floor laying and they come out of it. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, great. They used
Yeah.
like the gravity dynamics there. Uh, yeah. What else kind of comes to your mind? Maybe go back to you, Galaga guy, if it's that or anything else, any other scenes that kind of stick out to you.
Um, I liked talk about Mr. Is it Water Noose or Water Loose? Because I kept hearing loose. Is it noose or loose?
Water Noose, but it doesn't matter.
Noose.
Call him what you
Okay.
want.
So at the end, whenever he finally gets caught, he turns to Sully and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna bankrupt the company. Like, we won't have this energy anymore, and it's all your fault, Sully. Like, you did this." So to me, that scene was just like so weird to me because I'm like, this guy did all this stuff, and he's still like blaming someone else for what happened to him. So then it like kind of put in my head like, is he just someone who's like very like misguided, or is he like a villain? Like it's like I couldn't really tell with him because he's just so like his brain's so warped with
Yeah.
that thing. But I really loved that one, and I loved again, I love the background people. I had written down here like one little things like whenever the first couple scenes where the monster he's walking with a newspaper and he sneezes and he has fire breath so it burns up in his hands. The goo monster that they say hi to and he follows them
Yes.
through the and then
Oh, that's awesome.
and then the slug monster that's mopping the floor, and then he sleuths away, I guess. And there's like all this goo behind him. Like I love that stuff. Where it's just in the background, you just don't even see like any of the stuff. Like that's the stuff that just I really picked up on that I just loved about the movie. So that's just some things that I saw.
Oh yeah. There's so much too.
Really clever gags. I mean, like they thought about this for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And like I'm surprised we haven't brought it up. I thought it was going to be one of the first things, and I am so mad that I'm not remembering what's the code when the sock gets stuck on that one monster.
2319.
Like that's great. That scene. I love it. And there was some kind of like meme when COVID was going on. They took that number and equated it out to like shortage of toilet paper and all that stuff. It's silly, but I remember that being memorable, obviously before COVID, but that I always love that scene. And the big payoff is like he got shaved. You feel for that monster because they shave him down and put like a cone over his head.
Yeah.
It's so bad for him, but the payoff is his helpers keep screaming like, "No, we have a 2318." And at the end he tries to do it again, but he just grabs him and like shoves it down his throat. Yeah. I don't know why I've always appreciated that scene. So yeah, so many great gags. I mean, yeah. What are some other things that kind of stick out to you?
I like the scene too where Randall is fighting Sully, but he's invisible, and then Mike tries to talk to him. He doesn't know he's getting beat up. He's like, "I'm being attacked." And Mike's like, "I'm not attacking you. I'm just trying to talk." I love that scene. That was so good.
I love it, but it's also kind of dark because he does almost strangle him to death. Like he's like losing strength in his arms and his eyes rolling back in his head. I was like, oh wow! Like I kind of forgot that. Yeah. I remember he got close, but it really, I don't know. I guess I paid attention to it, not to take a funny moment and make it dark there, but maybe that stuck out to me more upon rewatch because as a kid, I was dying laughing. I'm like, ha ha ha, he's getting choked to death and and there's a snowball at him and it works out. But I love that scene too. Yeah. But how about you, Seth? What are some, or did you have some else, Gallagher guy? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to throw in a fun fact again. So it leaked in 2001 that there would be a teaser for the Star Wars Episode 2, and hundreds of moviegoers paid admission, some just to watch the trailer and then left for this movie.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Which is funny because this movie probably, I don't know what the budget was and all that stuff, but if you calculate everything together, it probably did better than Star Wars when it originally came out.
Which Star Wars for Episode 2?
Episode 2.
Okay. I can look that up.
It's
real
probably
quick.
close, is what I'm saying. So I think that's funny that people left, and it here.
You know what?
I remember. Did it do better?
The box office I'm seeing for Episode 2 was 653.
Yeah, I told you.
That's hilarious. And Monsters was 579, so it was right there. It was right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's funny to think about. Maybe they got so frustrated they thought they were gonna see Star Wars and they just walked out and went home. They're like, forget it. So that would have went to Star Wars, but Monsters reaped the benefits.
Oh, that's so funny.
That is hilarious. Yeah, there's so many quotes. I mean, that's a running theme also as we go through these Pixar movies. Like you touched on, Seth, the writing is great. It's got such clever lines. I mean, I gotta ask you, Galaga guy, like, is there a favorite scene or a favorite line that you have? Just what kind of?
Well, I love the singing like we did earlier. The whole thing where they're trying to figure out how to get Boo back, and then he keeps having to sing out so that people don't suspect them. Also, too, one I wrote down was whenever Sully thought that Boo was in the trash, whenever the little bit of her costume was in there, and so he thinks she's going through the trash. That scene, oh, I was busting up even watching it this time before the show. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so funny the way he's like dying, and then he brings the cube to Mike, and he's like, I can still hear her voice, and then Mike's like, I can hear it too. How many kids do you have in there? Like, there's all these. That I love that scene.
Oh, that is great. And I'm giggling over here because when I watched it with my kids, they were just belly laughing during that scene of him just like passing out, and then he's back up and he passes out again. It was just like they couldn't get their breath. So I love that scene too. So great. How about you, Seth? What are some quotes or scenes that you enjoyed?
I love the Abominable Snowman. The humor is so different than the rest of the film that it stands out. Like, to me, it's there's like, I think there's about 10 jokes there.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a 3-minute scene, and it's amazing. And then on top of that, the animation for when Sully leaves there and starts going back to search for Boo is so well done. I didn't make a note of this, but I know that they spent more time on this animation for Sully than like any other character in the history of animation.
Yeah.
Because of his hairs. His hairs were flowing, and those were each single hairs that they had.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is just unbelievable they spent that much time on it. It was just, they were willing to put in that money for a product that turned out so well.
Yeah. Yeah. They you see it, the efforts put into it, because that's something that always stuck out to me even as a kid, just seeing that hair and the animation. I mean, they were really starting to hit their stride with the animation. Not to say that what was done before, I still find it amazing. Like, it might show its age at times, but overall, even those early Pixar's or movies, they're just so well done. And this is no exception either. But I just had a random top of my head, and it's like, I keep forgetting it and then it comes back. But one of my favorite lines is that comes to mind is when they put him through the door to the trailer park, and that's also where you can find the Pizza Planet truck, obviously. So there's one of the things also to look for. But you see the silhouette. I don't know if it's just the silhouette with the line, but it's like, hey, it's that gator again. I'm gonna get the shovel. I don't know why. I feel so bad for him because he's getting beat over the head with a shovel, but I die laughing at that scene every time. It just gets me. I don't know why. And I'm surprised we haven't talked about the sushi bar. What'd you guys think of that? That whole scene? That was hilarious, I thought.
Whenever Boo finally comes out, that's funny. Whenever they're like, what? She's like, Boo, and they all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so great. I love the news that goes in afterwards. It's like, she went flying over my head. She started shooting her laser beams at me. And I was like, that is every news segment. You just go turn it on right now, and you will see that. They'll find the most bizarre and outlandish people, and they'll tell it. I love that one.
The one I wrote down was, she picked me up with it. She picked me up with its mind powers and shook me like a dog. She picked me up with her mind powers.
And then the one with like 20 eyes. Like, it's true. Yeah. I saw the whole thing.
Yes.
Shook me so like bad.
A dog. Oh, it's so great. Oh man, There's so many great lines. Those are ones that kind of pop in my head, but oh man, I think we could go on lines. We could almost just reenact it because it's just so clever, so well done. But maybe spin it back to you, Galaga Guy. Is there anything else, any notes, things that you want to touch on that we might be leaving out?
Let me see. Well, I did, as far as the sled, ride goes too. I thought about the music whenever they were doing that.
Yeah.
It almost was like a sense of like a superhero movie whenever they started out, like, oh, he's gonna like make it down here and he's gonna be the superhero to Boo. And then they stop it short. The music stops as soon as he hits the rock, almost like it's like, no, this is not that type of movie.
No.
Like again, it like throws you like, oh, Sully's gonna be the hero now. It's like, no, it's not like that. Like he's he's your average monster. He doesn't have any superpowers or anything. He's just trying to make his way. So I think that kind of, I don't know, like kind of humbled in the expectations, but also like kept you in line with what, he is capable of doing. It's not beyond what he could before. The other thing I said was that the kid in the beginning looks like Andy. Remember the scares?
Yeah.
The fake kid?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, did they just not know how to make children back then? Like they're just like, we don't know what to do here. We'll just throw Andy in the bed. Well, those are other
Yeah.
things that I noticed.
That is a good point because my father, he was into art design and animation. He took classes and things. And I remember that was one of his gripes even back then. Like he's like, I wish if you want to nitpick things about this movie, I mean, we're raving about it, but I guess you could look at like, yeah, as much as Sully is fantastic in other animations in other areas, I don't know if they just didn't get that part figured out yet, or they didn't put as much time into it, because that also was the case. We talked about that on Toy Story. If you pay attention, there's just like the same people walking around. It's almost like a, cut paste idea, but you just have to really be paying attention to catch it. I don't think it takes away too badly, but that is a good point though. That is kind of true. So, but yeah, how about you, Seth? What are some other things? I know we're missing a lot of stuff here.
Well, to go along with that, I read in research that each individual character was given an animator. So
Really?
I bet you they kind of dropped the ball when it came to the kids. I'm just assuming. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that it's bad animation. It's just like it's not creative like the other animation is.
Yes. Yeah, the bar is set so high when you compare Sully to
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get what you're saying there too, but I still think it's great. Yeah, it doesn't take away. That's just me though. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I don't think it takes it away. It's just kind of something funny I noticed. I'm like, that's Andy. Why are we in Andy's room right now? Oh no.
At least the kid later on that Mike is trying to make laugh, he is clearly different. Like they spent more time. So yeah, maybe we're not, sorry, whoever the animator was responsible for that. Maybe he was on a time crunch and just, he had other projects he's working on.
I just assumed that he was on a time crunch, but
Yeah. We'll cut him a break.
Yeah.
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 I thought it would be cool if they would have put like a Woody doll or something in there as like one of the Easter egg things, like, oh yeah, like, and make it like it was Andy's room. I thought that would have been funny, but they probably couldn't do that for whatever reason.
Well, I'm sure you guys caught that. Did you see that in Boo's room towards the end? There is a bunch of those.
No,
I'm surprised.
So, on the floor in Boo's room, you see the Luxo Junior ball.
There's that one.
Yep. Okay.
So that's where you can find the ball. And if you notice, she goes and I appreciate that scene because that's what kids do. They want to go get their toys and give them to you. So Boo's like talking her gibberish, and she starts grabbing her toys, handing them to Mike, and he's just he's distraught because he's like, I'm gonna leave you for good this time. But if you look real closely, one of the toys is Nemo. There's a Nemo toy.
Oh yeah.
So you think this is before Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
So that they gave a little tease for what's to come. I thought that was really cool, especially on rewatch, because you blink and you miss it. She's just handing it, and he's like, yeah, that's great, and he kind of just brushes it to the side. I think there's another one I'm missing, but that's what I caught personally on rewatch. If you look it up, I'm sure the internet, they have all the time in the world. They're able to pinpoint by the second, frame by frame stuff. But that jumped out to me. I thought that was pretty cool that they put that in there. So, but yeah, is there anything? Go ahead.
The only thing I caught was the Pizza Planet truck. That's the only thing I got. I was like, oh yeah, hey, there he is. But that was it. I did not see anything else.
Yeah.
Isaac, did you get the A113?
I'm going to be honest, I looked really, really hard for this one. And I'm going to be wrong
Oh,
because I feel like it's in
it might be
this-
in two places. I don't know, but
it
it's
might
in
be,
there.
okay, it might be in two places, but the only one I could find out was the same scene where you see the Pizza Planet truck with the trailer. If
Oh,
you look up in the branches, it almost looks like, but that was probably just,
I was looking for it and I couldn't find it, but I did research and they said it's easy to miss. They show it on the walls of the doors, like when there's a wall of doors. It says A113, and I missed it. Like I couldn't.
I did
I
too.
was looking for it and I couldn't find it.
Yeah. That's our game. We're trying to spot it. So you didn't pick that up, Galaga guy? You didn't notice that?
No, I didn't notice that either. No.
Okay. That makes me feel a little better because we're playing that game. You have to with Pixar. If you find, we just kept it to the ball and that. Those are the two main ones. And if there's any other ones we come across, but yeah, I looked hard and
I don't think Pizza Planet's in every movie.
I don't think so either. But we'll find out,
And did you know that the scene you were talking about with the trailer, that's in Bug's Life as well?
That's the same one too. Yep. Yeah. With the one gets zapped and I think that's where the Pizza Planet truck was too. It kind of shows a shot in a Bug's Life. But yeah, there's so many if you're really looking for it, they do all kinds of nods and it just grows and grows as we go into the movies. The further along, Pixar does a good job with that. Yeah.
And I noticed too, this is kind of like whenever you start noticing, is it John Ratzenberger? Is that his name?
Yeah.
That's the Yeti. You start realizing like, okay, he was Ham, and then he was Flea, and then now he's the Yeti. So it's kind of like, he eventually goes on in all the Pixars. I think basically every Pixar movie, right? Like he's some side character in every one of them. So this is kind of where like I feel like the pattern started setting up. Like, hey, wait a minute, like that guy sounds familiar. Like,
Yeah.
like I swear I've heard this before. And like every movie, you kind of recognize his voice as soon as he starts talking. You're like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
that's the Yeti. No, that's Ham. No, that's that's the Flea. Like,
yeah.
He's
He's
got
got such a
distinguished
great voice. Yes, thank you. I was stealing
Exactly.
your thunder there.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, I couldn't say it any better. That's exactly it. What I was thinking because he maybe is that a fun fact that you have, Seth? Because I know you're kind of the keeper of the fun facts. I don't like to steal them
I
for me,
wasn't
but-
going to bring that one up, but I do believe there's two others that are close to every movie. But I believe he's in every movie. I think they made a deal with him and he wanted to be. Like he was really a heavy hitter as far as like wanting to see like their movies to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and his fame is the TV show Cheers. That's where he was known before all of this. So you'll have to correct me maybe on a future episode if you come across it, but I want to say someone in the production crew either knew him and was a big Cheers fan, or they were just big fans of Cheers and they were like, we've got to get him on. And then it just grew from there. Like he began being in each movie, and we'll get to it. I'll just tease it, but they actually do acknowledge that at some point in a Pixar movie with him like, wait a minute, that sounds just like me, or that sounds like this character from another movie that they voice. We'll get to it. But
now that you mentioned it, I remember reading somewhere that I think that somebody, I don't know if they worked on Cheers or if they were just a fan of the show.
Yeah.
But yes, now that you mentioned it, I read that somewhere that they wanted him on. And I feel like he was a big supporter at first, and that's why they kept him.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to look it up. We'll bring it up. So
I'll find that.
Yeah. I apologize if I'm way off, but it was something
No,
similar.
I think you're right.
think.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, but we'll bring it up. I'm sure we'll bring it up again because, again, he's going to be in some more of these movies. So, stay tuned for that. So, oh man, they're so great. I got to throw this out real quick. So, Galaga guy, you mentioned now this is a emotional movie, and we see throughout, how Sully's getting this bond with Boo. So, I have to hear more of the story. What was that like? What are your thoughts on that whole relationship and that emotional ending?
I think it really, you felt like he was getting close with Boo, especially after he thought that, Boo he accidentally threw in the trash. He kind of felt like that. And then, and then, whenever, they get, thrown out with, the Yeti or the Abominable Snowman, whichever you like to call him. And then, he's almost willing to like leave Mike behind in his whole life. It's like, I'm focusing on Boo. So he gets so close to her. And then at the end, whenever, you think everything's kind of resolved, like, oh yeah, they caught the bad guy. Like, he's Water Noose is done and Randall's done. And it's like, oh well, this isn't just gonna be just your happy ending. Like this character that he's obviously grown very attached to, like he's gotta let her go now. And that's where
Yeah.
it gets me. It's like, oh man, like,
Mhm.
he's like you said, he goes into the room and she's trying to show him all this stuff, and he's like, hey, I just gotta say goodbye. So I don't know, just like hits you right in the feels during that. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, and then whenever the door they put it up there and they tear it apart and you just see his face, it
Mhm.
is it's just hits you right in the
Yeah.
feels.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Seth? What are your thoughts on that scene?
Well, honestly, for me, it's the scene where Mike had rebuilt the door.
Yes.
Mhm.
That scene to me was like, that's what got me. That was like, because he had carried around that splinter of the door,
Yeah.
in hopes that maybe one day that he'd see her again. And that's what got me. That was and I understand the whole build up to it, but man, it's touching. It hits you.
Yeah. It's well done. Again, just hats off to what you're saying. They built up to it. They have these moments, but the payoff for that moment is so well done. It's just they want you to kind of be invested in it. If they jumped right to the end and he's putting this human back in there, you feel no emotion. But throughout the movie, you're getting that connection, and
Yeah.
it's coming, but it's still sad. And I think when we watched it in the theater, going back to, you can remember watching it, Seth, the day of. One thing I do remember and sticks out to me. So that scene that you're talking about, where he puts that final piece in the door, and all it is he opens the door and goes boo, and then you hear kitty like that. Up to that point, like when he puts in the door, the whole theater just went silent.
Yeah.
You could hear yourself breathe. Like it was
Yeah.
kind of like creepy, that whole like, whoa. And as
Yeah.
soon as it went kitty, you just heard, oh, it was like everybody was relieved. It was almost everyone's like, oh my goodness, this is so
Yeah.
emotional. But it had that. I love that they didn't show it though. As much as it would have been fun to see that, I love that that's just how it ends. That's it. He opens the door, he hears Kitty, and you see him kind of light up and smile. It was just great. Yeah. It's a wonderful way to end the movie, I thought. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I didn't know if it was just me like hearing things wrong, but I felt like whenever she said kitty, her voice was almost like a little bit lower, like she was a little more grown up
Yes.
whenever she said that too. So I don't think they really say how many years have gone by or how much time has gone by, but obviously, she's gotten older. So that also kind of added it for me, like, oh, this is a lot of time has passed, and like just that little kitty like showed, a
Yeah.
little bit more into it, I guess.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm glad you brought that up. That is actually how I pictured it. It wasn't
Yeah.
like the next day or the next week or a month. I've pictured exactly what you're saying. It was like her voice was a little different. It wasn't as high pitched. And I think that's what makes it emotional, because then as an adult, you're like, now you're picturing in your mind, your imagination, if you were to see, I think everybody might have had an imaginary friend at the very least or something like that. And if that core memory hits you, it's like, oh, it's like it hits you in the feels like, man, yeah, I love that. That's a great point of bringing that up. Yeah. So, oh, we could go on, but anything that we're missing, any, I guess, final thoughts? Maybe start with you, Seth.
I've got a couple more notes. So Sully's name, James P. Sullivan, pays homage to Pat Sullivan, the animator who created Felix the Cat,
Oh,
which I think
okay.
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have to correct myself. So we spoke of the music earlier, but in Toy Story 2, When Somebody Loved Me was nominated for an Oscar but did not win. So Randy
Oh.
Newman won for Monsters Inc., however. So
Oh.
I had to correct myself on that one because in my head, I keep thinking of, because I watched the Oscars that night and I remember she performed that song. I keep thinking in my head that she won, but she just performed it. That's what it was.
That makes me mad, though.
It does, because that song is amazing.
It is.
Yes.
Not that, I mean, yes, he should have won it for Monsters Inc. I'm glad he won it, but that should have been his first win. So that kind of makes me mad.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, good update though. Good to know. So yeah, any other points or anything else that maybe just final thoughts from you, Galaga guy?
So the one thing I did have written down, I watched it on Disney Plus, and I couldn't remember if it had bloopers or not. Part of me was thinking that they had bloopers in the original one, and also too, I remember Mike had like this whole performance that he did, like of their songs that he made up on the fly that he actually did like a whole play for. But for some reason, the Disney Plus one didn't have any of that. Like you get to the end and I was waiting for it because it said, "Oh, 5 minutes to the end." And I'm like, all right, like I'll sit here and wait because it's got to pop up. And
Yeah.
it didn't. So that was that was kind of that was disappointing. So if you're gonna watch it, make sure you get the one with the bloopers and the skit at the end. 'Cause that one's like those are so good. Those yeah. So but as far as final thoughts on the movie itself, uh, even now watching this as an adult, I still think it's an amazing movie. Like I think this is really great. It's got a lot of facets to it that I don't think a lot of movies at the time or even now have. And I think again, even though I've seen it probably over a dozen times, I still get that punch in the feels whenever the end of the movie comes, and that's just the way Pixar movies are, regardless of how many times you see them. It's like they still can just tap into that, whatever it is, they still can do it. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I did. My hope was filled, so I'm glad.
The hope is filled. There you go.
Yes.
Sound like you had something to say, Seth. How about any other thoughts?
I was going to speak for you, Isaac, because you and I both grew up watching all the credits.
Yes.
So that was a big thing for us. And now that you mention it, I do remember all those bloopers and everything at the end. And they had like a little play. It was like a little play that And it's kind of like earth shattering to watch a movie and wait for the stuff to come on, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I feel for you.
Yeah. That's a great public service announcement, though. I'm glad you brought that up. And yes, that's why sometimes it's better not to do streaming. Like if you don't own it, yes, you can watch the movie, but you miss so much. I don't know what the deal is with that. Like why they don't include it. And people call me crazy because I'll do that. I'll be like, they didn't include it on it. People are like, there was no such thing because maybe they didn't watch it at the time. But like Seth said, that was something we did. We just stayed the movie. We'd watch everybody clear out and we have the whole movie theater to ourselves. It's kind of a unique experience. I don't know. It's just that nostalgia. I don't know. I when I got married to my wife, we actually would do that. And it would just be us, and we would just go through all the names in the credits and try to find the funniest name possible. So it's fun. It's great. That's another service announcement. I mean, I think everybody does it now because it's more well known, but stay after. If you go to the theater, you might pick up a after credit scene or find a funny name in the credits. Who knows? It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So there you have it. We touched on so much. I'm so happy we did because I know we could go on about it, but I think we hit on the main points there, and it's just it's a classic. I think that's the way we can look at it. But before we get to our reviews, how we would rate it, we have to look around the net. We gotta just get our, idea, kind of a taste of what's out there. So, Seth, what kind of reviews are you seeing out there?
Well, I'm really excited for this one because we got some repeat offenders again.
Oh boy.
The first one is CC the Movie Man -1 says, nothing to criticize here. Very solid animated film, 9 out of 10.
All right. So 9 out of 10. I think we're kind of in agreement on that one, but you know, it's fun to see a familiar face.
And
I'll call him.
I will
I
say this
wonder.
too. Go ahead.
Well, he said there's no criticisms there. That gives it a 9 out of 10. So I'm like, well, what makes a 10?
There's something.
Well,
I might have to
anyways,
look up his record because he can look up these people and see what they've written.
That's true.
yeah.
That's true.
I was gonna say as I did research for this one to the user reviews, there wasn't very many low reviews because I think most of those people were trolling. This was one of the highest rated reviews I've ever done.
Yeah.
So go along with that. Again, another repeat offender. Boba _ Fett
Yeah.
1138 said,
Boba.
adorable movie with top class entertainment, 10 out of 10.
Wow. There he is. Yep. We remember Boba. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love these names. Yes. I get a kick out of them.
You ready for the last one?
Bring it on. I'm ready.
So I think this one we might have done before, or maybe I love it so much because it's fresh. I don't know. But it's Mini Gentle Cuttlefish said.
I don't remember that one.
My personal favorite Pixar movie, 10 out of 10.
Oh, I agree with it, but hats off to your name. That's a great one. I get enjoyment just out of the names alone, but yes, great reviews there. I really appreciate
And I
that.
swear I don't just pick them for their names. I look over the reviews, I read the numbers, I read the scores, I read what they're trying to say.
I trust it, and those are great. I think those are kind of going along, and it's not that we're cherry picking here. Again, looking at the reviews, I mean, a 96 on Rotten Tomatoes, that's just crazy. And look at other review sites, I think you'll see the same. So there you have it. That's kind of what we're seeing around the net. So let's get down to it, though. We got to hear how we're going to rate this. So, Galga guy, since you are our guest, we don't do the standard out of 10, even though we read, from IMDb some reviews. If you're not familiar, we have Take It Home, which is the highest honor you can give a movie. We have Leave It at Grandma's, which is still a good movie, but maybe you watch from time to time, or you hide it in the attic. So I have to ask you, Gallagher guy, for Monsters, Inc., are you going to take it home? Are you going to leave it at Grandma's? Or are you going to hide it in the attic?
I'd probably take it home if it was me. So, yep, I'd probably take it home. I wouldn't leave it at Grandma's.
All right. I don't know if it's going to be any surprises, but Seth, what are you going to rate it?
I have to take this one home. Every time that I think about it, I take him back to that first viewing and just being blown away by like I said, the music, the animation, and the characters.
Yeah, I agree. And it'd be weird for me to say leave it at Grandma's, right? But I'm gonna take it home too. I mean, I have to. I really have to. I heard a breath of sigh there.
Yeah.
I was like,
I was scared.
And we have to be clear. Like, if you leave it at Grandma's, it's not a bad rating.
No,
it's really not. So it's just the mindset of, if you take it home, you could watch it anytime. And what can I say? I can watch this movie anytime. I will make a kind of it's not a hot take, but I guess one, just for me personally, it might not be up with Toy Story, the first two. I'm just being honest, but it's still, you got to say this is one of the peak Pixar. And I know for some people, I don't know, maybe when we get our rankings again someday, we've talked about updating that list. Who knows? Monsters might be one of our favorites of Pixar's. You never know. I've spoken to a few and they say, yeah, my favorite Pixar movie is Monsters. But yeah, I still got to take this home. It's so unique. It's got so much character. It's so different. This is a kid's movie. As scary as it can be at times, it's still a kid's movie that you want to see as a kid. You want to not be too frightened from monsters, but you want that world, I guess, to be opened up. So, all right, there you have it, folks. I don't think that was much of a shocker, but that's our ratings for Monsters Inc. So we appreciate so much having you on Galaga Guy 88 because, having that extra feedback, that extra person, I think it just adds to the fun that we're having. So we thank you so much for coming on, but we want to be sure that we let people know where they can find you. So this is kind of your opportunity. If you want people to check you out, where can people find you at?
You can find me on YouTube underneath Galaga Guy 88 and also on TikTok. I'm on there too now, underneath Galaga Guy 88. So reach out on there. Have shows or have different videos that I do with my arcade and gaming in general. So take a peek and see if you like it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely check him out, guys. He's got some fun videos, especially if you're into arcades, but you got some fun content too. A lot of shorts, like you mentioned, with TikTok and all that. So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, and we'll make sure we cover our bases too. So, Seth, where can people find us at?
YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You can also email us at moviesatgrandmashouse@gmail.com. We are now on Patreon with the main goal of getting the voice of Andy, John Morris, on the podcast. Andy or Bust, hashtag Andy or Bust. We will soon have many more giveaways. Currently, the top prize is the original trilogy of Toy Story on Blu-ray sealed. Make sure to check out Patreon and become a member.
Yes, sir. Be sure to check it out. We talked about how, Toy Story 1 and 2, they're kind of a must-have in your collection. And I think I can speak on behalf of all of us. Monsters, Inc. is another one you probably want to have. Fortunately, it's not in this bundle, but maybe someday we might get to that point. But yes, check us out on Patreon. You can be a member for free too. Be sure to follow us on there. That way you can keep up to date because we want to get that connection with you, the listener. We might have some previews of upcoming movies. Now, right now, it's obvious we're doing Pixar. We're going by release, so you know what to expect. But in the future, we might kind of give a tease. So any memories you have, any, fun facts, feel free to share them. Seth's got them, but feel free to steal some of his thunder. We'll give you a shout out. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us like Seth mentioned. Be sure to check us out on those platforms. But we're just having a blast. We're having a fun time. And we have that goal again to have the voice of Andy. So we're really looking forward to that. We'd love to have him on. So if you don't mind, check us out. At least be a free member on Patreon. Give us a follow there. So that'll about do it here. So unfortunately, our time at Grandma's has come to an end. But don't worry, we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, remember to be kind and rewind. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.